Welcome to the Do It Anyway podcast. I am your host, Maria Redman, here to take you down all things fitness, nutrition, wellness, and everything in between. Happy 2025, everyone. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's a whole new year. And yes, I was off for the last 3 weeks. I'm sorry, I know you guys missed me, but I hope everyone had a great Christmas holiday with their friends and family. And I hope everyone has had a great start to the new year. I know for me, I had a good start. I went to bed like I normally did and woke up. And for me, that's a blessing. So really hope everyone enjoyed it. I want to give a big shout out and thanks to everyone that kept following the podcast while I was on vacation relaxing, and all for all your comments and views and likes. I appreciate you all so much. If you are new here, welcome. This is a safe space where we just go all in on all things fitness, nutrition, like I said. And please feel free to comment, like, subscribe, share it out. You can also catch this podcast on Spotify and Applecast if you're a person that just likes to listen. So with that, we're going to roll into 2025. I figured I'd start you guys off really strong and talk to you all about peptides. Peptides are becoming really, really popular present day in the health and wellness space, the fitness space, I really should say. Although they're not new at all. They've been around for quite some time. They're just starting to catch steam in mainstream spots and locations across the world. So I want to get into peptides a little bit and how you can get in shape using peptides. But before I say this, I need to go on my soapbox for a second. I am a firm believer, having had to lose 145 pounds the good old-fashioned way with work and eating well, I am a big proponent of you following a really well-placed nutrition plan and exercising, whether that's in the gym or running, whatever the case may be. I'm a big proponent of doing it that way first, because you will end up with a better respect for what you've done with your body when you reach your goal versus if you use a whole bunch of things to take shortcuts. And it also keeps you more compliant long term. You tend to just really, you get in line with the whole entire process if you really just work it from the natural sense. Now, all that being said, I know there's going to be some people who say, well, you know what, this technology, these things exist. I want to utilize them. And, between steroids and peptides, peptides would definitely be the way to go. And so I am here to tell you that I'm a proponent also if you want to go down the path of peptides. There are peptides that are great for building muscle. There are peptides that are great for losing body fat. There's some that actually do a combination of the two. There's also a peptide that I particularly use, well, actually two of them, that's BPC157, and it's mixed with something called TB500. Both peptides, they are great at keeping me injury-free. This is how I am able to do so much activity from week to week without getting injured. They're great for healing your tendons, ligaments. In addition, one bonus is BP157 is extremely amazing for your gut health. So I just wanted to share that because I know people always are like, oh, it's synthetic this. It's not. For the most part, some of these other peptides I talk about, your body produces naturally. And then there's those other peptides, like I mentioned, that are just phenomenal at healing. So let's get into peptides. First of all, peptides and steroids, they are very, very, very different. They operate on two different mechanisms. Peptides work and interact with specific receptors in your body, whereas steroids, they more work with gene expression, right? So they definitely influence the way that your muscles will grow, the protein synthesis that's happening in your muscles. And so they are extremely different. If you hear someone say that, oh, it's like taking steroids, it is not. They do not work at a fast rate at all. They are very, very slow for you to see results. However, these are real lasting results that you'll yield from taking peptides as opposed to steroids, When you have someone that's taking steroids, lots of bodybuilders, and some of you may know them, you'll see them one moment, they look really, really good. And then in their considered off season, they look like a big fluffy marshmallow. Or you'll see some people who don't have their nutrition reined in that are taking steroids because they want to get bigger, only end up looking like big blobs. So that's the difference between the steroids and the peptides. Peptides, slower, more natural, longer lasting. Steroids, very fast with the results. I mean, you can get results almost immediately, using steroids. In two weeks, you're seeing some changes. Not very long lasting, extremely unhealthy, especially if you start messing around with the dosages, which most people unfortunately tend to do. And just overall, when you come off of them, whatever gains you had, they are gone. The gains are gone after the juice. So that's why I really do like the world of peptides. So in terms of safety, peptides are generally very, very safe. They're very favorable. The only time that I've looked into some cases where peptides were becoming unsafe is when people started to really just up the dosage. And unfortunately, you see this in one peptide, which is very similar to Wegovy Ozempic. It's called semaglutide. That is a peptide. Because people want results faster, they tend to misuse it. And that one comes with some very crazy side effects if you overdose on that. So that would be the only one that I found that had really severe side effects from, is when people were overusing the peptides. But other than that, they're very sound. No damage to cardiovascular health as you would get with steroids. No mood disturbances either as you would get with steroids. So everyone was pretty, not pretty, but you stay yourself. You're not roid raging or any of that craziness, thank God. Again, the results and the effectiveness, like I said, peptides are going to be a lot slower in terms of the results. So that's going to really, if you're going to use peptides, you're going to really want to just be in it for the long haul. And when I say long haul, you're talking about maybe seeing really good results at like the 3-month mark. And then go forward, they're more consistent after that. But expect, if you're taking them, to not really see much going on until the 3-month mark. And then it's like, okay, your body's saturated with it. Boom, the results start happening. And I find peptides to be more effective for the everyday person. So if you're in the bodybuilding space and you are thinking of going to peptides for usage and you're a competitive bodybuilder that wants to take a gear, so to speak, peptides are not really going to be effective the way you want them to be. They can get you some gains, but you're going to have to take copious amounts of it to get to where you want to get in terms of bodybuilding physique style. So when it comes to that, for men, let me preface and say, for men, I don't think that that's a path that you want to go for men that want to do bodybuilding as a sport. Now, if you're a man that wants to look really good on the beach with his shirt off, excuse me, peptides are an amazing route for you to go. If you're a man that's over 50 and starting to deal with the muscle loss and all that good stuff, peptides are going to be phenomenal for you to take. And women, bar none, hands down, this is a much more safer and effective way to, utilize putting on muscle, even for ladies that compete, especially if you're in a bikini, if you're in wellness, and even figure. Now, if you want to go to like women's physique, something that I do, or women's bodybuilding, if you don't already have the genetics to be predisposed to already being larger and more muscular, I don't know if I'd say use the peptides, although they are just so much safer. I would rather see women go down that route, in all honesty, versus taking the hard steroids, because competing, it comes to an end for everyone. And men bounce back 10 times faster from steroids than you ever will. Once you start playing in that pot of steroids, you're going to wreak some bad business when you finally decide that you're done with them. So overall, peptides are going to be the best route to go, even if you're in the bodybuilding space as a female. So with that, let's talk about some of the peptides. There's quite a few. One of the most popular ones right now that's on the market is CJC 1295 with Ipamorelin. I know, long words. Um, this particular peptide is very similar to growth hormone release. It also boosts fat metabolism. You see a lot of women in their 40s and 50s, 60s going to hormone replacement therapy places to get this particular peptide because it is extremely effective. Excuse me. For women that are actually going through, perimenopause and menopause, this has also been found to be very effective in helping to alleviate some of the symptoms that are holding your body up from burning more fat. So this has been very, very effective. There's also a lot of therapists that prescribe this in the functional medicine space as well. Some don't, some do, but for the most part, you will find this at a lot of different, fitness and wellness locations as the peptide to take. So, excuse me, not only enhances fat loss, but it's great for sleep and also recovery. And what I really love, not only is it great for helping build muscle, but if you go into a caloric deficit, it's really phenomenal at muscle preservation. And you can't beat that because there's nothing worse, trust me, I know, than putting on muscle, then have to diet down and losing that muscle. It's just like you almost feel like you want to hit yourself in the head because it becomes this vicious cycle that's hard to get out of. So Ipamorelin is a CJC 1295 with Ipamorelin is great. Now you will also find this peptide split into pieces. Sometimes you can get it just the 1295 by itself, and sometimes you see CJC with the 1295, or sometimes you see Ipamorelin by itself. It is very effective. They're all good in their own right. And I guess maybe deciding what you want to get from each portion of the peptide is what will make you buy one over the other. However, when they're all combined together synergistically, they're very, very effective. And I would recommend that you take all three together. All right. The next peptide that we're going to talk about is Fragment 176-191. These are going to be some wild numbers. I'm telling you, they're all labeled this way. This is a human growth hormone fragment. So what they did with the human growth hormone is took literally just a fragment of it off, and that's what you're dealing with. This one targets fat burning specifically. This is a highly effective fat burning peptide. A lot of people in the bodybuilding space are starting to convert to using this particular peptide over using things like clenbuterol or taking a lot of hormone T3 pills for your thyroid, which is not a great idea to do. There's a couple of other things that people take out there in the bodybuilding space that are just crazy to take. I won't name them because they actually cause death if you take them too much. But this right here, Fragment 176, is highly, highly effective at helping you burn body fat. I mean, I've seen people losing body fat in as quick as 2.5 weeks, not with overdosing either, just with a normal dosage. So that is a very, very good peptide. It does also impact your insulin sensitivity, which is a very, very good thing if you're a person that's struggling with their weight. So that's Fragment 176. And it's one that you want to get if you really are serious about burning fat. However, let me caveat. It's not just going to burn the fat while you're sitting down. You still need to have some exercise movement, and you still need to have a sound nutritional protocol. All of these things, these peptides I'm going to tell you about, are optimal if your nutrition is on point and your training is on point and cardio is in the mix. So that being said, Fragment 176 is very effective at burning fat. Then you have another peptide called AOD 9604. This is also a fragmented peptide, and it also mimics fat burning. This one affects your natural HGH without messing with your blood sugar levels. So sometimes you can take human growth hormone. Some bodybuilders take it. You can purchase it, and they call that the fountain of youth. The one thing that HGH for short does is it really messes with your insulin levels. Like it can ruin them sometimes. So you have to be very, very careful. With AOD 9604 and the Fragment 176, these do not affect your insulin. So you're going to have stable blood sugars and you're not having to worry about any of that crazy nonsense that's associated with doing that. So that's really how this one works. Now, what I like about the AOD versus the 176, even though they both burn fat, the AOD helps a ton with your metabolism. So when I have people that are having like a very slow metabolism, it just will not budge, it won't move no matter what we're doing, they're usually a good candidate for something like this peptide. It really helps with also very stubborn fat. So if I have a competitor, if anyone comes to me for coaching, unless they are already, if they're in a bodybuilding space and they come to me for coaching, if there's someone who's already on steroids, I ask them first if they want to stay on that path. They say yes, I keep them that way. But if you come to me for coaching, I am known for getting people in shape without touching one drug, period. I just believe in hard work and dieting. Now, when it comes to peptides, if I have a client that's maybe struggling with some stubborn fat, like ladies, that piece that's not your butt, it's not your thigh. I call it the thigh. It's like the in between fat. This is where I would utilize a AOD 9604 because it's very great at getting stubborn fat off of areas. It's not really a spot reducer, but for some reason it seems to just get to those stubborn areas. So very, very effective in that manner. You can also use this AOD alongside of other peptides. So if you wanted to take the AOD with the CJC 1295, you totally could, completely safe, no side effects. I've done it with clients before and it has been very, very, very beneficial. So that's another great one for speeding up the metabolism, burning fat, and keeping you with no sides, no crazy heart, palpitations, none of the nonsense that you get with taking some of the other things like clenbuterol. Then we can get into the ones that are really good for muscle gain. I already mentioned this one for healing, but this one also helps build some muscle, the BPC157. Now, for me, I will admit, I feel like I've only ever taken it for injuries or injury prevention, which I just continue taking it because something is always, I've got a niggle somewhere at all times. I mean, on any given day, I am exercising between 4 and 5 hours of the day. So something is bound to break down when you do that 6-7 days a week. So that's where I utilize the BPC 157. But it does promote, like I said, the healing, but it's indirectly supporting muscle recovery and growth. I have to be honest. When it comes to the muscle growth portion, I've been taking it for a long time. I can't say that I've really seen any substantial muscle growth from it, personally myself. But also, I don't take a very high dose. Now, I would imagine because of the way that peptide is designed, if you up your dosage, probably. But honestly, for me, it's all about, healing and recovery. And that's what I get from it. And I've not seen anything else from it. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. The BPC 157, when they say it's for muscle gain, I would refer myself back to the CJC 1295 long before I start taking a BPC 157. Next on the list is IGF-1 LR3. This stimulates muscle growth repair by mimicking insulin-like growth factors. So there's a lot of science that goes into that. I'm not going to break it down because we'd be here all night long, but just know that IGF-1 LR3 is very, very effective at muscle growth. This again is what people are trying to do that take true human growth hormone. Why people don't buy HGH is because it's so super expensive. So that's where these peptides come in at. Now, I will say this. On IGF-1, it's going to take some time to show up. Again, around that 2.5, 3 month mark is when you're going to be like, okay, this is really working. So if you're going to get into this peptide, do not give up. It is working. It just really takes some time. It boosts your muscle hypertrophy, your muscle growth. It enhances protein muscle synthesis in the body. So you've got constant protein circulation going on all day. And it really increases recovery time. So this is a really good peptide to use. It's a great peptide to use after a bulking phase. 100%. You can use it during your bulking phase, and it's great right after. One or the other, doesn't matter. I think if I were prescribing it, I would give someone this during their bulk personally, and would probably switch them to the CJC 1295 after the bulk. Personally, I would do that. But you can do it either way. Highly, highly effective. The next one that we're going to talk about is Tesamorelin. Similar to Tesamorelin, that's in the 1295 that we talked about already, but this increases your growth hormone secretion. So you're getting more of the secretion, which helps you burn more fat, helps you grow more muscle. It doesn't really help you grow more muscle. It helps you preserve more of your muscle. So that's where Tesamorelin comes in at. And it's really effective for burning visceral fat. So I hope you've heard already, a lot of these all have fat burning properties, which is one thing. Before I go further on Tesamorelin, one thing that confuses me is why more people are not trying to go the route of these peptides versus just going to something like a Wegovy or an Ozempic, which is very muscle wasting, and can actually make you very, very sick. It just boggles the mind. I don't know if there's not enough knowledge about peptides, or if people think that peptides are dangerous, or they think they're like steroids. Maybe that's the case, but this is far more effective. I've just given you 5 peptides that are all effective at burning fat, and Tesamorelin is really, really good at burning visceral fat. And this also supports really good lean muscle development. So if I have a female, or even a male, maybe a thinner, a smaller male, that are struggling with like belly fat issues, and the thinner female needs to put on some muscle, the male as well, this would be the peptide that I would say would be most advantageous for them to take in terms of putting on lean muscle tissue and getting that visceral belly fat off. So this is a really good one for those cases. If you have a lot of weight to lose, this one wouldn't be the one that you would use for just losing body fat. I would probably go to the AOD to use just the body fat. But this one is twofold, with helping you, build lean muscle tissue in addition to burning some of the visceral fat that you have. So that's all the ones for muscle building. Then we get into peptides that have combined benefits. So there's one out there called GHRP2 and GHRP6. These stimulate growth hormone release and improve muscle mass while reducing, again, what? Body fat. So if you haven't really figured out, your growth hormone in your body is phenomenal when it's working, and you secrete a lot of it at keeping your body fat low. I've got my blood work done. You can get your blood work done and find out, what your growth hormone factors are like. I clearly have some really good growth hormone factors that apparently did not show up when I was fat. I don't know what happened to them back then. I don't know. They were non-existent probably, but now I'm doing okay, and I don't take any of these peptides. But if I needed to, I would tell you right now that I would. So these two peptides together encourage muscle growth, support fat metabolism, and improve your recovery and sleep. In particular, GHRP2, and the 6, they are both really quality products for sleep. When I've got someone that's struggling with sleep, sometimes I say that, okay, let's prescribe this one to you because you definitely need it. Because when you sleep, this is why I harp on sleep so much. Lack of sleep, which I've had today, by the way, it fosters your recovery. So when you're in the gym and you think you're doing all the lifting, or you're doing your cardio, whatever you're doing, I know in that moment you're thinking that's when the magic's happening. but that's not when nothing's happening. You're actually creating damage to your system by running, lifting weights, all of it. The magic happens when you go to sleep and your body is able to release growth hormone to repair. And you need to be in certain stages of sleep for these things to happen. And this is why sleep is so incredibly important. So if you're on your fat loss journey or you're on your muscle building journey and you are skimping on sleep, I'm telling you right now, your results are going to be piss poor, period, point blank. I'm speaking from experience. In the beginning of my fitness career, my weight loss journey, I was not sleeping a lot because I was running a couple different businesses at the time, and my whole schedule was in reverse. I was up at night. It was a wild time. At full transparency, at that time, I owned a nightclub, so I was up all night long, every single day, and then still trying to do my normal life routine. This is back when I was trying to lose the weight. So I would have probably had faster results had I slept better. And that was key. When I finally really got into the groove and lost the weight and really started understanding all about all the things you need to do to make it very effective and successful in your weight loss, I started prioritizing my sleep, and my body became tighter and tighter and tighter, faster and faster. So sleep really is key. So anything that you can take that helps you, aside from wine and weed, let me repeat, aside from wine and weed is effective. Let me just say, weed is, I don't smoke weed. I don't do the THC stuff, but it is effective at getting you to sleep. I just don't think any studies have been done on the quality of said sleep, because that's what really matters. We all can fall asleep. It's the quality of the sleep when our eyes are closed that really counts on what's happening. So I need to kind of look into that.
I was gonna just say one thing that I don't know if your audience might relate to is that when you do smoke before you go to bed, you don't remember your dreams.
Interesting.
And I will say that there was a time where I was in an accident and I'd have nightmares of me going through it over and over. And I did smoke some weed at night, and they went away.
Interesting.
Now, I don't know if that I still think you dream, of course.
100%.
But I just don't know. That'd be a really good study to look into, because I've heard that you don't sleep as well as you would if you weren't smoking or anything.
Right.
But then I also heard there's other benefits. You do fall asleep.
Right.
But like the whole dream thing, I would love to know more information about that, because once I stop smoking, for a while, the dreams become more intense.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's something that I've always
I need to look into that. I'm going to call a couple sleep specialists.
I'm really
see if they have any knowledge of it.
Because it would be really good to know, like, hey, you actually shouldn't be doing that, or maybe it's
right, or maybe it is effective, right? I don't know. So that's why I say the quality. I do know it's effective at getting you to sleep, like 100%.
Yes.
If you need to go to bed and you're a person that's into the weed or THC, get it, you're going to go to sleep. I just can't say what happens to the quality once you're in there. So, then there's that. But if you were taking a GHRP2 or GHRP6 peptide, you're going to definitely start to get into some better sleeping patterns for sure, where your body's getting into the recovery stages and into the deep stages and staying there long enough for it to do what it does. I currently still do not sleep very long. But when you look at my sleep patterns over time, I rely on my watch. I have an Oura ring. My sleep quality is 95% very, very good. When I am asleep, I am asleep. I'm done. I'm finished. I'm asleep. My body gets to go through the stages that it needs to. And so most of my sleep is between REM and deep. I have very little light sleep, which is phenomenal for me. And I think that is what has allowed me to be able to do the amount of fitness activity that I do every single day. Because honestly, I'm amazed at myself sometimes when I get through all of the things and I'm like, I don't know how I just did that and didn't fall apart. I have no idea. But I tend to sleep well, which I'm thankful for. But if you need something to help you go to sleep, GHRP2, GHRP6 is definitely one that you want to look into. Then you have something called Thymosin beta 4, which is the TB500 that I mentioned earlier that I mix with my BPC157. This one focuses on recovery and reducing inflammation. If you are a person dealing with knee issues, elbow issues, any joint issues for the most part, that TB500 is phenomenal. Now, I will say this, I was a bit skeptical at first. When I started using TB500 and BP157, this is back in 2016 when I first started living over in Europe. Actually soon longer than that, whatever year it was. Needless to say, that's how I was introduced to it as a healing peptide. And I was dealing with some knee issues, wear and tear. My knees look good on x-rays. My knees look great in MRIs. They were like, there's nothing wrong with your knees, but they were always hurting. Started with that, and I was taking it, I tell you, straight every day like they said, and I didn't feel any difference for like about 3 weeks. And then one day I woke up and it was just gone. And then I was a believer ever since, and the pain never circled back. I've come off of it several times because I'm a big proponent too of giving things a break, and it didn't come back. So I really do love the TB500. It is just so great for inflammation that it's not funny. You can also add TB500 to other compounds, and it works very synergistically for like fat metabolism and some muscle gain as well. Although, again, I'll tell you, I've been mixing BPC and TB5 for a long time, and I've not seen much muscle gain. So I just want to throw that out there personally. Also, what I've noticed with the TB5 is it definitely increases your stamina, like 100%. Now, please don't start messaging me asking if it's going to increase your stamina in the bedroom. I don't know. But for exercise, yes, it definitely does. And I guess I guess you're doing some kind of cardiovascular activity if you're, having sex. So maybe, I don't know, give it a try. It won't hurt you. Who knows? So those are the ones that I wanted to talk to you about. Those are 8 peptides that are highly, highly effective. Here's the most important part. They're extremely safe to use. You're taking them using like an insulin needle, so it's not some big jab that you're doing. The amounts are very minuscule. Now, dosages will vary from person to person, right? So that's something that I advise you hook up with a hormone replacement therapy location in your area so that you can get that. I will have a couple companies linked below this podcast for you to check out, companies that I know that are reputable and really good, so you're not worried about maybe getting bathwater in terms of products. So we'll do that, but do not try to buy these black market and do it yourself. You really want to know the amounts that you need to take, because you can end up wasting by trying to take, thinking more is better. So let's not do that. Let's get with a reputable company, and let them also tell you what the dosages should be based upon what your blood work is looking like. That's another thing that I want to point out. Do not just start taking peptides. You need to go and get a deep dive and figure out what's going on underneath the hood with all your blood work first before you take anything, even an over-the-counter supplement. Blood work. Make sure that's your priority. Then you can kind of get into this other world of peptides if you so see fit. Lastly, I want to leave you with what I started with. The true state of wellness, health, fitness is when you really just say, okay, I'm going to put my all into my nutrition. I'm going to put my all into my exercise. Excuse me. I'm going to put my all into my hydration and my sleep, and see how far that gets you first. Let your body get you to a place where you're like, okay, I've made a ton of changes. I'm in pretty good shape. And then decide if you want to take it to the next level. And that's when you can start looking at peptides. But don't do it before then. Just do the hard work. I am telling you, when I think back to having to lose the weight and the work that I had to put in and how many hours I was in the gym, Some days it just was like, oh, I'm so sick of this. But now looking back, priceless. I am so glad that I did. I have such a much better respect for my body and my physique, over my internal and external health overall, compared to so many others that are in the fitness space. I have come into this fitness space with women who were competing with me. They no longer compete. A lot of them have a whole host of metabolic issues, unfortunately. A lot of them are missing their hair, cracked teeth, severely overweight now. I mean, I've seen all of it. And so they're nowhere, of course, near competing. And here it is, I'm thankful, and I'm not boasting or bragging, but I am still able to do all of those things. And I'm very, very thankful. But I think because, unlike a lot of others, I didn't shortcut the process. I didn't know anything about the shortcuts. I didn't know a thing. I just knew that I needed to change my nutrition and I need to go to the gym and bust my butt. And that's what I knew. And so that's what I did. And so I'm sharing that with you to say, look, the hard work cannot be unbeaten. And if you want to start taking things to help your journey along the way, that's great. But even if it's steroids, I am not, you do, it's your body. I feel like you do what you think is best for you. I'm always on board with that. There's healthy ways to take steroids, if you want to go that path. But lay that foundation first. There are so many people right now that took the Ozempic and Wegovy, etc., that are still overweight. Explain that one to me. I can. They didn't lay a foundation. The doctor didn't make them lay a foundation of sound nutrition and sound exercise. They just gave them this thing because they knew they're going to lose some weight, and then they're going to eat more food, and then they're going to gain back the weight, and then they're going to keep coming back and begging me for more of this stuff, and I'm going to prescribe them more, and the cycle continues because they're only worried about their pockets. They don't care about your fat loss. They could care less. But if you're going to go on Ozempic and Wegovy, and you're going to get a coach that's going to give you sound nutrition and good quality exercising to do so that you can lay that foundation while you take it, that's what you should do so that you can make what you think is going to be permanent really permanent. I have lost over 145 pounds. There's nothing anyone else can tell me about having to lose weight. Very few people, because I have been effective at keeping it off my body since 2009. That's very difficult to do, but it's because I respect the process that I had to undergo to get me to this point. So I won't belabor it, but I want you guys to understand, lay that foundation first, and then start to add in things after you lay your foundation. And that will set you up for major success. And with that, I'm going to end this podcast of the Do It Anyway with Maria Redman. It's been a pleasure to see you. The flex is back. Someone called me out and said I didn't flex in the last one. I'm sorry. I missed my flex. But the podcast is back on, and I want to thank each and every one of you again for being a part of the podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. In addition to catching it on Spotify or Applecast, if that's where you want to catch your podcast. And with that, I close out. Peace.